Okay, Jacinda Ardern, you haven't been tested on these sorts of trust issues that Bill English has been confronted with, but if you are caught in a lie or caught intentionally misleading the New Zealand public, how would you expect to be held to account?
Well, I actually believe that it is possible to exist in politics without lying and by telling the truth. I do believe that, and I have been in politics for 9 years. Yes, politicians make mistakes, but a true mark of leadership is whether you front those mistakes, be as transparent as possible with the public when you make them. That's the sign of good leadership.
You've never told a lie in politics?
No, and if I have made a mistake, I've fronted it. And I'm going to make them in the future too, Patty, let's be clear. But it's all about fronting them when you do.
The new coalition government's been left battered and bruised after an embarrassing gaffe on the first day of Parliament sitting.
The coalition was forced to make concessions to National after being confused about the numbers.
The government had 5 MPs missing. So National called its bluff and threatened to force a vote that could have seen Labour's pick, Trevor Mallard, lose and leave the government red-faced. To make matters worse, Labour actually had the numbers and would have won if National had forced a vote.
They did buy National's bluff and they then tried to spin it.
Was it embarrassing for the government, though, to almost lose at the
No, not at all. Look, we had the numbers.
Why did you buckle so quickly on select committee numbers?
We didn't buckle. We had the numbers. But for me, this was about making sure that we got off Parliament on the right foot.
I don't buy this line that they didn't want a contested vote for Speaker. That's just nuts.
Different people now say Jacinda Ardern told them that Donald Trump mistook her for the wife of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It sounds a trifling matter. Did you tell people that Donald Trump mistook you?
I told people that, yes, someone had observed that I'd been mistaken.
But that's not the story they gave us. They didn't say someone got it wrong and thought accidentally that Jacinda Ardern had been mistaken. They said, no, they said Jacinda Ardern was mistaken and Jacinda Ardern told us that she was mistaken by Donald Trump.
And it's quite complicated, Jack.
It's not. It's actually not.
OK.
Did you say to Tom Sainsbury that that Donald Trump mistook you for Justin Trudeau's wife?
I gave him a short version, which was behind the scenes at the Music Awards.
I know. What was the short version?
The shortened version was that there was some confusion over who I was, observed by someone else. I believe I told him the full story.
You believe you did?
I believe I did.
2 people now say that you told them that you were mistaken by Donald Trump. I know this seems like a trifling matter, but what I'm suggesting is that now that you are a world leader, all of these little things can blow up to be big. And if you are giving something that is not the entire truth, it can confuse people.
No, I'm sharing this story here.
Did you say that confusion was someone else's confusion, or did you imply that it was Donald Trump's confusion?
I said there was confusion over who I was.
An emotional Claire Curran has resigned her ministerial posts, saying the pressure on her had become intolerable.
The Dunedin South Labour MP had already been booted out of Cabinet for failing to declare 2 secret meetings.
Curran called Jacinda Ardern last night. Her resignation was accepted, but when asked this morning what they talked about, the PM failed to mention it.
Have you spoken to Claire Curran yet?
Yes, I have.
About what?
About the past couple of days, just about what's been going on for her. Yeah, as you would expect.
The Prime Minister even implying Curran's job was safe, saying she wouldn't fire her.
She had a bad day.
Sure,
happened.
everyone has a bad day. Why is she on personal leave then?
She took some time out because, she obviously feels under a huge amount of pressure, and she took some time out.
Are you considering cutting ties with her though, firing her?
No, because I think she's paid a price.
With Meka Whaitiri suspended for an alleged assault, the PN's lost 2 ministers from her cabinet in 2 weeks.
Is cabinet stable? Because that's 2 now that stood down.
Absolutely, no question.
The GDP numbers on Thursday, have you seen them or got a hint?
Sorry, the
GDP numbers
GDP
Thursday.
Numbers. We'll be putting out the audited and final results soon.
So you have seen them?
I get a hint, yes.
Are they good?
I'm pretty pleased.
Good. Because you need at least 0.8 or 0.9 to rectify the 0.5,
yes.
Don't you?
Setting expectations already.
Because what we need is you had 0.5 in the first quarter, and if you start annualising out 0.5, you're running at 2. Anything at 2 is not acceptable. You need to be well into the 3s.
You'll understand why I'm going to leave that to the Minister of Finance to do that job.
But you are pleased?
Yeah, I'm hardly ever satisfied, constantly wanting to see improvement, but yeah, I'm pleased with the way we're tracking.
Does she know the difference between GDP and Crown financial statements?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Did she know at 8 a.m. this morning?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Next question.
Derek Handley, the man the government mucked around over the role of Chief Technology Officer, has released private texts between himself and Ardern.
Claire Curran was sacked as minister for a secret meeting with Handley, and Ardern's always maintained she didn't interfere in the appointment process, didn't discuss the job with Handley when he raised it.
I did not directly reply to that message.
Did she flat out ignore his text? Not even an emoji?
Mr. Speaker, I did not even send an emoji.
But after Handley mentions considering the CTO role to Ardern, he then asks for the best email to send some starter thoughts. And she did reply, sending him her private email address. Ardern had hoped to focus on making an international impression, leaving messy local politics at home. But even a good news climate change announcement came across as disingenuous.
$300 million.
Funding for the Pacific turned out to be a renewal of existing funding, topped up a bit.
Richie Hardcore.
I'm really looking forward to coming along and speaking alongside Jacinda.
A friend of the Prime Minister.
I'll be joined by people like Richie Hardcore.
And a friend of convicted drug smuggler Carol Schrubeck. A text message to one of those friends about the other has set off a firestorm. Richie Hardcore sent us a statement saying he texted the Prime Minister to commend their compassion in granting residency to Schrubeck.
Why didn't you release this previously?
I was, keeping in mind, of course, I've initiated releasing this.
Actually, there were specific questions a month ago.
Did Richie Hardcore, former martial arts champion, make representations?
We've had to ask questions now for nearly 2 months. And by omission, I think she's been dishonest.
The last of the KiwiBuild targets has fallen. KiwiBuild itself is now calling the one-year anniversary of the program, June 30th, an artificial deadline. And the government looks almost certain to fail to build 300 homes by then.
Today, the Prime Minister denying that the end of the first year of KiwiBuild was ever a target.
No, we never had targets for those dates.
There was a target for those dates. That's the end of year one.
People asked about expectations of completion, but we hadn't set incremental targets in that way.
Almost sounds like she's trying to convince herself.
Claims of dishonesty at odds with the Prime Minister's brand of politics.
Going from St Jacinda to being seen as a liar.
You know, we are a nation that allows free speech. We've seen a number of examples recently where we've acknowledged that in allowing people to share their views. And that's New Zealand. That's as it should be, but we should be consistent about that as well.
Jacinda Ardern has personally tried to prevent journalists from asking questions about the Ihumātao dispute while she's on a trip to remote Pacific Islands.
Ardern personally instructed media not to ask about Ihumātao. Her office even threatened to restrict access to the Prime Minister for the rest of the trip if we did.
Are you comfortable with our access to you being threatened for asking about Ihumātao?
I don't know what you're talking about, I'm sorry.
The Prime Minister should be able to answer questions without an army of officials feeding them lines, and it really plays into that narrative from her critics, from National, that she's this kind of celebrity-style politician more interested in garnering positive international headlines than dealing with the substance at home.
Me Too must become We Too. I was informed in the very beginning that the allegations made were not sexual in nature.
If you are caught in a lie or caught intentionally misleading the New Zealand public, how would you expect to be held to account?
Well, I actually believe that it is possible to exist in politics without lying and by telling the truth. I do believe that, and I have been in politics for 9 years. With this plan, we are going to keep doing this. In my school, there used to be a choice. You either learned Tudor England or you learnt New Zealand history. And I'm lucky that I had a history teacher who believed that we should all learn New Zealand history. And so I was lucky that I did, but not everyone does.
The Article 1 of the treaty, what does it say?
Oh, Article 1, on the spot? Ka whangatanga, sorry, excuse me.
Article 2?
Look, tēnā ringatanga.